Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Warehouse. I'm your host, Josh Johnson, and like every time, we are joined by an incredibly special guest. Today, the guest that we have, we've had a lot of celebrities on the show. We've had a lot of pioneers on the show. I think that you may be the best example of the melding of those worlds. You've enjoyed your own level of success and celebrity, but you have also just honestly been the foremost pioneer in what our conversation is going to be about today in the modern lexicon, and that is jousting and everything that comes with it. I am joined today by the owner and captain of the Knights of Valor, Shane Adams. Thanks for joining us, Shane.
Thank you very much for having me, Josh. This is awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, Shane, before we get into all the accoutrement and the cool stuff that has made you yourself over the years, let's start at the beginning. Why jousting? Why this life?
I ask myself that every time I break my hand. Every time, every single time, going through the trials and tribulations of trying to recreate an ancient sport of kings to today's modern day and age. Like, who in the world would do such a thing?
Sure.
Yeah, a little kid growing up in Canada with a dream of wanting to be a knight. And that's fueled my fire since watching a Robin Hood movie when I was super, super young. I can remember sitting on the floor with my grandmother behind me watching an old Earl Flynn Robin Hood movie. And in comes Robin Hood to save the Black Knight at that time. And I used to think, Robin Hood was my idol.
Sure.
But then I saw the Black Knight and them jousting, and it was like, why shoot an arrow when you can actually get on a horse and hit somebody with a big stick? So there you go. That's how the dream started.
A word like dream, whenever it comes up on this programming, is something that just sticks with me. Dreams are delicate situations.
They are.
They're things that we keep with us. And I don't know if it's because of a fear of losing them or because without them we would lose ourselves.
It's funny you say that. In grade 10, I was super young. I was like 5 years old when this happened. Luckily, I grew up on an Arabian horse farm. So right after watching that movie, I raided the tinfoil cabinet and made myself a cardboard helmet and grabbed a garbage can lid as a shield, went out and hopped on one of the horses. Anyway, note to self, and for everybody else out there, do not get on an Arabian stallion with a whole bunch of tinfoil if they're not used to it yet. That was my first experience of jumping a big 4-foot fence and taking off through the forest on a quest that I could not stop.
Oh, so you didn't fall off. You made it over the fence.
Oh, I made it over the fence, and we just kept on going and going and going and going. My mom tells the story great, whereas when I was 4, I opened up the barn door. I corralled all the horses inside the barn, went upside the hayloft, opened the door with a piece of baler twine that I rigged up to be able to open the door. The horses were coming out one after the other, and I jumped like a puma off a cliff onto its prey, landing on top of a 4-year-old Arabian stallion. But note to self, I did not lock the gate. The horses took off out the gate, down the driveway, and my mom said she was washing dishes and screamed as she saw her 4-year-old son and her 4-year-old Arabian stallion headed down the driveway and out the roads.
Well, to steal your language, note to self, the only thing that matters in life is making it over the fence.
You have to make it over the fence. And if you don't, you just keep on trying.
I heard
keep
that.
on trying. So I wrote a poem in grade 10, and it's funny you said about dreams and how the world wouldn't be anything. It's actually, hold fast to your dreams, for if dreams fade, the earth would be nothing but an endless maze. And that's been really my motto in life. All throughout my entire life, I've concentrated on that poem and that belief that if you believe in something strong enough, if you believe that you can make it happen, you can make it happen. It's all up here, and it's all the work and the heart and everything pushing through you to be able to succeed in living that dream.
Speaking of making it happen, before we get into what anchors this segment, which is something really cool that you're bringing to Tallahassee, I would be remiss if, I didn't kind of color it with who you are and what you've been to the world that you live in. there's this thing called the list, right? That
Yes.
the horses come down
Yes.
in the jousting arena, for lack of better words, and
Yes.
that comes from an antiquated anecdote where men would sign up to be on this thing, and so now that you are on the list, right?
Yes.
You are the list of jousting. You have done something that many people don't get a chance to do, and it's smell rare air in their dreams. You brought the very popular Full Metal Jousting to the History Channel in the mid 2000s. How did that come about? How did you get that show?
It's funny, it's so many people ask me like, "Oh, how did you land that network deal? How did you?"
Yeah.
It's ironically, I already had a network deal before that one even came up, which is, and I walked away from it. And people are like, "You walked away from a network deal." Even Pilgrim Films, the people I ended up producing with Craig Pelagian, he's the original, creator of the first 4 Survivors.
UFC too, right?
The Dana White and Craig Pelagian are partners in The Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah.
Top Shot, Dirty Jobs. Like, this guy made Mike Rowe's career. Like that's the guy who I partnered up with. But before I even met him, I had a deal that I just didn't sign, but it was from National Geographic, and they wanted the story. And it all came to be by myself living my dream of who I am, and a writer for the New York Times contacted me. I can mention her name, Dasha Sclater. She said that her editor was a big fan of jousting, and I'd been producing jousting shows and competing in jousting tournaments representing Canada all throughout North America. And it was real. Like, what we did was real. So she came out to one of the tournaments and did an interview with a lot of the guys that were there. And she painted me as North America's most dedicated promoter and biggest jousting star.
Absolutely.
That New York Times story ended up becoming the New York Times Sunday Magazine article in the New York Times. And yes, I had a New York Times article written about it. Like that's okay, that's pretty cool. That's right on. Just a little kid living his dream. Well, on Thursday, before the Sunday release of, my phone was starting to blow up. It was, the people from, NBC, and then Charlie Ebersol called me, Dick Ebersol's son. He called me, and 3 days later, before it even came out, there I am now at the Playboy Mansion in California at the ESPY Award pre-party. I'm walking the red carpet with all these sports stars, and people are, "Hey, you're the guy from the jousting thing." That's how fast it happened.
You know what?
Just like that.
I didn't even anticipate to spool off into this, but you brought up sports.
Yes.
And jousting has been marketed in the past, 15 or 20 years because of yourself, really,
Right.
as an extreme sport, which it is.
Yes.
But it also, to me, as an art and culture guy, also has the elegance and the sophistication of an art. What is that balance to you? Is it sport, is it art, or is it both?
It's both. It truly is both. Some people will tell you that they're in it just for the sport. The history of it means nothing to them. The horses are just a mode of transportation from point A to point B. But the real romance about what I do for a living and living my dream is that bond between myself and my horse. That team of man and animal working together as a team, rather than, riding a bucking horse or a bull. It creates it creates love. Like, it really, really is. And that companionship and that friendship and that bond. And I've had horses, like I have a horse tattooed on my chest, actually, ironically, the same horse that's on this shirt. We'd go into competitions, and he wasn't the easiest horse to ride, but he knew what his job was. He knew what I was trying to do. He'd pin his ears back. He'd show his teeth, and he'd throw his weight into the actual hits to make my hit that much more severe than anybody else's. And if I ever got rocked, like meaning I was coming off to the side of the horse, he'd scoop up underneath to save me. Like, what kind of sport can you, what kind of like poem, what kind of like relate? Like, it's just, the bond. It's amazing.
It seems like almost like the trust that two tandem figure skaters have to have for each other.
For 100%.
Yeah.
100%. So it's, I rode him for 16 years and was never unhorsed in competition while riding that horse. Ever. Now, did he ever throw me? Heck yeah, he did. Sure. Did he ever do stupid things? For sure he did.
You just brought back a memory because I actually, I used to watch the show, and I'm not just, egging on. It was a cool show, and I know it didn't last long, but I used to watch it. It was my early college years or mid college years, and I was like, man, this stuff is whacked because it looks like they're actually hitting each other. But to bring up what you just said, I remember you were always kind of like edgy, but even keeled. But I remember you got hot one time because a guy hit his horse, and I remember that episode, and so I know what you.
It's so when that happened, when I found they hit it from me.
You remember the episode?
Oh, yeah. I remember the episode. I remember the scenario. Now, I wasn't there when it actually happened, when the person struck the horse, and they tried to hide it from me because they were all my horses, and I was under a lot of stress. Like this is a big deal. This was for history. It wasn't just history. You
mean for the History Channel?
Not History Channel. History. It's actually history.
I see.
Yeah. So for history, the network, this was a big money deal. So money didn't come from history. It came from the people that owned history. So AETN is actually the people that put the money behind the show. When I mean money, it was a motion picture budget. So they put the money, the infrastructure, the cameras, the personnel, the people, the production team, everything that made that show as great as it was not just my own dream. It was everybody behind it. And I remember when filming it, one of the painters, set painters, we had 350 people on set. Like it was a big production. He came over with a T-shirt from his town and offered it to me as a thank you. And I was like, why are you giving me your T-shirt? Like, this, from your town. He goes, oh, you don't understand the amount of money that you brought in to this entire region. So we thank you. It was filmed in Clinton, Mississippi. And it was really, really special to see everybody come together under that dream. And I know it might be going off topic here, but the interesting thing too with that, I know I seemed edgy, but one day I was food services were there, craft services, and feeding breakfast, lunch, dinner, rotating many meals, and I went up and talked to one of the servers and said, hey, do you know what? I'm kind of looking for tacos. Do you guys have any tacos? And she goes, oh no, sorry, we don't have any tacos. And it's like, oh, okay. And I guess I had this disappointed look on my face. 20 minutes later, doesn't the owner of the catering company show up and, just at my table, say, oh, whatever you need. And it was like, that's okay. That's cool. And I went into the office and was talking to one of the ladies, Rita, and she was one of the production managers. And I said, oh, I'm so surprised that the guy came from all the way from the city to come and I don't understand. She goes, well, Shane, you do know that you're the executive producer of the show, right? I said, what? Yeah. And she goes, that means you're the boss. And I'm like, oh, so this freaked me out. But in that situation, there were so many people, and they were trying to keep me calm. I'd go for a run every morning there on the beautiful farm that the production was set on. And when that incident happened and I found out, I had to wait. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. I wanted to go and step all over that guy, but you can't just do that in the industry.
Oh, you mean the guy who hit the horse?
The guy who hit the horse.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm not even going to mention his name. It's not worth it. But with that said, they said I couldn't hit him. I couldn't touch him. I couldn't do anything. I said, well, can I defend myself? And they're like, well, absolutely. If he takes a swing at you, then do whatever. So when I walked into that room to have my discussion to kick him off the show, I was already in my mind, like Arnold Schwarzenegger in a movie, like, okay, I'm going to do this. First I'm going to break your neck and I'm going to grab this guy's hand and he's going to, So all this was going through my mind. And what people don't see is I was stepping on his toe. waiting for him to take a swing, and the production team pushed in one of the coaches, Rod Walker from Australia. They pushed him into the scene, and that separated us. But I was, kicking him off the show. He got an easy way out.
Because you could see the passion, and it wasn't the passion for your ego, for your show.
Defending the horse.
It was for the animal, and that always stuck with me. And so,
right after that, the HBO had a series, a racehorse series called Luck. Dustin Hoffman, I think, was on it.
Oh, sure, where he owned the horse. Yes, I remember.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, they had an incident where I guess it had a heat wave, and I think 2 horses met their fate in the production of that show, and HBO, shut it down. And they weren't able to film anymore. It's because of the neglect, I want to say, of using the horses and not using them properly. With that said, the LA Times did a cartoon drawing of all these horses with briefcases lined up in a line for applications for the Full Metal Jousting show because of the way we took care of our horses. So it was like, that was another pat on the back.
A high compliment.
It really, really was. Yeah, it was really great. Yes.
So now we're pulling it a little bit into current times. You've spent your life as a world champion. The president of the World Championship Jousting Association.
At the start, yes.
The head of the Knights of Valor. You have really just put your sport on your back. And not only as a champion, as this great cosmetic representative, you're 6'4", you've got the hair of Jeff Bridges, the beard of Zeus, you look the part.
I just shaved it. It was down here. Seriously, it was.
You look the part, but not only do you look the part, you are the part. And that brings me to what's coming to town. This isn't a passion that has just been something, like I said, for your career or your ego. It's about education and entertainment and community. Tell us a little bit about what we can expect from something that you have been bringing all over the country that will land in Tallahassee, which is the Renaissance Faire.
Well, for many years, I've been trying to find a place to showcase my art, to showcase my talents. And being a Canadian, growing up and living in Canada, I could not fuel the fire that the sport of jousting needed. People thought, cut your hair, get a real job, like all this sort of stuff. I mean, my dad used to say that to me all the time. I went from being scouted for the Boston Bruins to playing hockey to ending up in a traffic accident, which eliminated my hockey career, which then made me focus more on what my childhood dream really was, and that was the jousting and everything that went with it. And all of a sudden realized
the other circus element,
the circus element. And growing up, what little kid does not fantasize or dream about running away with the circus? Like, I'm going to run away with the circus. And I tell my partner all the time, I tell her, Sarah, like, I want to have a medieval circus. I want to have a Cirque de Medieval. Like, that's what I want. And she's like, okay, she follows things. She's an entertainer herself too. So, being able to go from living my childhood dream of jousting and becoming a world champion and having my TV show represented around the world and number one in 65 countries. The
1.9 million views that first episode.
Thank you. On, man. The Guardian, in England's, recognizes the number one show of the year, and it's so amazing. But yet it wasn't enough. There it is. You think that was it for me. That was the cherry on the top of my jousting career. But now I want to be able to bring my dream to other people. And after every show I've done around the world, the eyes of the children, whether it be a boy or a little girl, just opening up on realizing that dreams can come true. It doesn't matter if you want to be a knight or the president of the United States. If you want something bad enough, just go out there and grab it. If you reach for the stars and if you reach high enough, the stars will reach back for you.
When does your Renaissance Fair land on Tallahassee?
So the Renaissance Fair happens next weekend, March 21st and 22nd. I am bringing my medieval circus right here to Tallahassee.
And it will be at the North Florida Fairgrounds?
North Florida Fairgrounds in the tram parking lot. I've got five to 7 acres there that I'm going to turn into a step back in time. When people come up to the gates, they're going to see a castle facade. They're going to, get their tickets scanned, and as soon as they come through those gates, they're transported back in time. Whether it be a historical age or an age of fantasy, every type of element can exist. You can be a barbarian, you can be a medieval knight, you can be a Viking.
What are the falcon people?
You can be a falcon. We have falcons there.
But so what are the people that catch the falcons? A
falconer.
Falconer.
Yes, we have a falconer there coming as well. So we have a trebuchet sitting there at the fairgrounds right now, and I'm thinking about launching watermelons in the traffic just to get media there. Like, how do you explain that? My car was hit by a watermelon launched by a trebuchet.
Shane Adams is in town.
That's right. Shane Adams' Medieval Circus, the North Florida Renaissance Fair, is here in Tallahassee.
I always wear a different pin on my lapel, and today I wore the Littlefinger pin, which is a character in the Game of Thrones, because they come from, I think they're common people. And I always, even though he's a bad guy, I resonate with common people. And you brought up hockey earlier. This really does seem like a sport and an event that is for everybody. And that is something that I have really appreciated about my research on you.
That's
and
awesome.
You coming on the show. This has just been incredible.
Thank you. A lot of people when that show came out, I was getting, a lot of thank yous from horse ladies out there. It's finally a show that they could watch with their husbands, and their husbands were now learning how to ride horses and, just the connection. But it wasn't just, again, the sport. It was, the horses. And yes, the TV show was more of a sporting element. Mm-hmm. For me, being as who I am, I've always wanted to be a little bit theatrical. I played Macbeth when I was in high school and absolutely loved it. It's like, hang the banners on the outward walls. The cry is still, they come. Like just, stuff like, cursed be the tongue that tells me so, for the coward my better part of man. And may these fiends no more believe that keep the word of promise to our ear and break it to our hope. Though burning wood be to come to Dunsinane, and thou post being of no woman born, yet before my body I throw my warlike shield. Lay on, Josh, and damn be him that first cries. And we sword fight. And yes.
I love it. Before I close this thing out, I have one last question for you, and it can be a quick one. If you wouldn't have chosen this life, what would a guy like you have done? Have you ever thought about that? Or is this the only thing you could have done?
Do you know what? It's funny you say that. It's everything that I've done in my life. I wanted to be an Air Force pilot in Canada. Got in a fight with a warrant officer, got kicked out of the Air Force. Wanted to be a hockey star. Well, I ended up in a traffic accident, and there went that career. And I was closely connected to having that possibility. Paul Coffey's sister had a horse at my place. Like, actually, ironically, this is where a sport aspect comes into theater. Paul Coffey's sister, Kathy Coffey, in Canada, people know Paul Coffey as as one of the greatest defensemen ever. Played for the Edmonton Oilers. Super famous guy. If you're not into hockey, then you might not know him, but anybody that's involved in hockey knows who Paul Coffey is. His sister took me to see Cats in Toronto when I was 16 years old. And Victoria, one of the cats, jumped from stage and landed practically right in my lap. Right there, I wanted a medieval circus. Right there. Jousting was not enough. I wanted a medieval circus.
You wanted all of it. I will say in closing, Shane, you did not knock me off my horse, but you did knock me off of my seat and out of my socks with this interview today. I appreciate you so much for joining us, and I appreciate you at home for joining us for another episode of The Warehouse. See you next time. Bye-bye. Oh, what a show, man.
That's awesome.